Hey guys, Zach here, and welcome back to another edition of Jurassic June. And today, we'll be taking a look at the Disney's Dinosaur, movie. And really quick, I just want to say that this movie and a book called Dinosaur Dictionary A to Z were the two things that introduced me to dinosaurs, and, the reason why I still love them today. Disney's Dinosaur was one of my favorite movies as a kid. And so is Toy Story, and in fact, I'd even say that this movie is better than Toy Story. Looking back, no. But as a kid, this movie was great. Does it still hold up? Well, I'll talk about that near the end. But first, let's talk about the story. An iguanodon egg is separated from the nest after a Carnotaurus attack. And it travels across the sea and across the land, and it manages to land on an island. Now, this island is only inhabited by lemurs. Maybe a few other things, maybe some birds or whatever, but in the movie, it's just lemurs. The egg hatches, and it is shown that it is an iguanodon egg. Now, the lemurs decide, hey, let's grow this baby iguanodon up to be our own, and that's what they do. And the iguanodon named Aladar, who the lemurs named, they live happily on the island until a meteor comes and destroys it. So most of the lemurs die. Actually, almost all of them die, with like 4 survivors, including Aladar. And then they escape the island and they find a desert. And basically, they get attacked by a small pack of velociraptors, but then manage to find a bigger herd. So then, yeah, they join the herd to find the nesting grounds while also avoiding many dangerous, things along the way. And that's pretty much it for the movie. The story is basic, a little basic, but not awful. So, yeah, it's very similar to The Land Before Time. And people even say that this movie is a ripoff of The Land Before Time. But really quick, I just want to say that this is kind of a controversial opinion, but I actually like this movie more than I like The Land Before Time. Even the first one, the first Land Before Time, I think that this is still a better movie. Now, I still like The Land Before Time, don't get me wrong. It's not a bad movie at all. It's, again, a movie that was, a part of my childhood, but I just think that this movie's better in a lot of ways. The Land Before Time, again, don't get me wrong, is great too, but this movie is a lot darker than The Land Before Time, and I kind of appreciate that more, so, yeah. And to be fair, again, kind of controversial, but I still kind of think that The Land Before Time is overrated. I said this a couple times before, I still think it's a good movie, but again, in my opinion, it's just a little overrated. But that's just me. So, yeah. Anyway, the characters. As I mentioned, there is an iguanodon named Aladar, who was my favorite as a kid. There were the lemurs that survived the asteroid attack, or meteor, sorry, and I don't like them. I don't like any of the lemurs at all, to be honest, but again, that's just me. And a few other background characters, and the love interest, Nira, who, to me, was just a bland female character, and that's kind of all she is to me. She's just the brother of the leader of the herd, Crone, and yeah, even when I was a kid, her character never really interested me a lot, but yeah. The soundtrack, I think, is very nice. It's not John Williams level, I will admit, but I still think that the soundtrack is very nice for this movie. I really like the track when all the dinosaurs are traveling through the desert, and it's like this big montage of like all the dinosaurs being like tired and like, they're about to die. I really like that track, but yeah. The animation, very good, no complaints, and especially for a movie from 2000, the CGI here is actually very good. There are some things that I really like. As I just said, the soundtrack and the animation are very nice. The Carnotaurus. Now, as you know, the Carnotaurus is my favorite dinosaur. I love the Carnotaurus, and this is the movie that kind of introduced me to that dinosaur. And I really like the Carnotaurus in this movie. By all means, it's not accurate to the actual animal itself, but at the very least, the Carnotaurus in this movie is still very cool and actually kind of scary at times. So, yeah, I really like the Carnotaurus in this movie. The voice acting, I think, is good. I think the lemurs have kind of annoying voices, but yeah, I think the voice acting, for the most part, is very good in this movie. And the opening scene, I feel like, is the best part about this movie, with the egg. So, after, the whole, Carnotaur attack in the beginning, the egg is being traveled across the forest, and then it leads to a river, and then the ocean, and then, yeah, I really like that scene a lot. So, yeah, that's definitely the highlight of the movie for me. Negatives. Again, the voice acting. Some of the voice acting in this movie kind of got under my skin. Mainly the lemur characters. I wasn't really the biggest fan of them. But I think, yeah, the voice acting is still very good. Too much desert is something that I think plagues this movie a lot as well. Because everything involving, the opening scene is great because the animation looks great. And seeing all the trees and whatnot, it looks great. The grass looks great. Everything looks great. And the desert looks great too, but we see way too much of the desert, and I'm not really the biggest fan of that. I would have preferred if there was a more forest kind of setting, but that's just me. The lemurs, as I mentioned before, I do not like them whatsoever. Let's see here. Some of the faces in this movie are a little... Oh, I just realized my shadow is there. Yeah, some of the faces some of these characters make are kind of very weird looking and very not good at all, if I'm going to be honest. There are some faces that look like... There's a scene where one of the lemurs is trying to hook... This is going to sound stupid. This is like... One of the lemurs was trying to hook up Nira and Aladar, but the lemur just makes, an ass out of Aladar, and Nira just thinks he's a jerk. And then Aladar makes a face at him, where it's like, he's smiling. It's like that face where, you're smiling, but you're actually, angry. But, yeah, that, in this movie, that scene, that face really kind of made me just, yeah, to me, that doesn't look great, but... Yeah, some of the faces in this movie, not gonna lie, are, yeah, not great. One of the biggest things that I, have a problem with when it comes to this movie would be how Aladar finds the herd. When he finds the herd, so Aladar, for most of his life, has been living on an island for, his whole life. And he finds a herd of, dinosaurs that looked exactly like him. And he doesn't say anything. He doesn't ask anything. He's not why do they look like me? He just accepts that, oh, there's more of me. So, yeah. And even one of the lemurs even says oh, look at all the Aladars. And, yeah. It would have been a lot better if, Aladar was more he thought more about the situation rather than just, oh, more of me. Let's just join them, But, yeah, that's definitely my biggest problem with the movie. Some of the dialogue in this movie, not great. Most of the dialogue is good, but then you get some, the love monkey, which I wasn't really a big fan of. And then there's the line, I always loved big girls. That, even as a kid, that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and... Yeah, some of the dialogue here is just... Yeah. And I guess the last thing that I have, negative feelings about would be the lips. The lips in this movie look weird on these animals. I get that you're supposed to make them talk and you're supposed to make them, have facial reactions and whatnot, but I just feel the lips look very weird in this movie. And going back to what I said earlier, I feel like it would have been better if this movie was, a silent film. Silent film, still have, sounds and whatnot, and still have a soundtrack, but don't have the characters talk. Just have them, grunt or roar or whatever. I think the voices are just... They kind of take away. And that's something that I really didn't like about the 2013 Walking with Dinosaurs movie. I thought the animation looked great. Everything about that movie looked great. The reason why I hate it so much is because of the voice acting. There's no need to give the dinosaurs voices, and I get that you do need to kind of appeal to children. I get that, but at the same time, I feel like, it'd be a lot better if, if there wasn't voices at all. And just have, like the expressions on their faces, I feel like would be enough to, and, like, the soundtrack would be enough to, like, kind of set the mood to a scene or whatever. But, yeah, that's pretty much it for the negatives for me. Now, the conclusion, not gonna lie, it's not as good as I remember. I don't love it as much as I love Jurassic Park by any means whatsoever, but I still think that this is an underrated gem, and not a lot of people talk about this movie. Yeah, my negatives do outweigh the positives, but this is still a fantastic movie. The soundtrack is great, the animation looks great. This movie does have a lot of good things about it, and again, this is a movie that was a big part of my childhood, so I can't really bash on this movie too much. But, yeah, there are some things that, I wasn't too crazy about, and even some people online, say, yeah, this movie, I'm not the biggest fan, and I don't understand why. I still think that this is a fantastic movie. Again, not as great as Jurassic Park, but I still think that this is a, very good movie. In fact, like people, who talk about it, very few people have talked about it, but even then, the people who have talked about it said, yeah, it's, But I think that this movie is very good, and I'm actually surprised that nobody really talks about this movie. This movie apparently made a lot of money when it came out, and I'm actually kind of surprised that we haven't gotten a sequel to this movie within, as long as it's been since that movie came out. But, yeah. Would I want a sequel? Yes. I would want a sequel, but I guess if I have one thing I'd want in the sequel, probably more greenery and not so much desert, but yeah. Anyway, I highly recommend this movie. This movie is fantastic, and you can get this movie, on DVD on Amazon for about $7, which really isn't bad. So, out of a 10, I'd give this movie a solid 7 or 8. This movie to me is still very good, and yeah, the flaws are definitely there. This movie is still very good, so yeah, definitely give this movie a watch if you haven't already, but yeah. Anyway, that is it for today. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you in the next video. Peace, Zach out.